welcome back to Coping with Post-COVID Symptoms and Anxiety. So today is really the foundation where I want to kind of build on how can we create a foundation of health for our body. So I'm going to give you a bunch of resources at the end of this, so definitely stay tuned for the end. But one of the resources I was using talked about electrolytes, and I gotta say it has been a huge help for me. It's gotten rid of my headaches. When I don't take electrolytes, I will get a headache usually, and when I do too much, I end up getting a headache. The electrolytes has helped with that. A lot of people tend to kind of just have electrolytes first thing in the morning, and that actually has helped me. It helps me actually not have a headache. It helps me have less fatigue, and I've been diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome. But it also has helped have a little less shortness of breath. And the mornings tend to be the worst for me with breathing. So I always go to an electrolyte right away. So what are electrolytes? Electrolytes are minerals that are found in your blood, and they help regulate and control the balance of fluids in the body. And these minerals play a role in regulating the blood pressure, muscle contraction, and they keep your system functioning properly. A lot of people that are very active or in sports will have electrolytes after a workout. And is definitely talk to your doctor about electrolytes. Remember, I'm not a physician, and this is just suggestions. This is what I'm using to help me, but I always recommend you talk to your doctor because electrolytes have salt in them, and if you have high blood pressure, you have to be very careful with your salt intake. My dad had high blood pressure, so I grew up having no salt. All of a sudden, I'm having to put so much salt in my diet. They can also measure how many grams of salt for you that would work best for you. Some people also are told how much fluid intake they have to help them feel better, and they're given very specific recommendations. So where do you begin with electrolytes? Well, one, I always say try not to have electrolytes that have too much sugar in it. You don't want to be spiking your sugar. And a lot of times if you're looking for just a quick drink that you could get at CVS or at the grocery store, they will say 0 for meaning no sugar. I started with Body Armor, 0 Body Armor with no sugar. I'm not endorsing any of these. It's really trial and error what works best for you. So what I use now is Ultima, and it's little packets that I can just put into my bottle. And I'll have it first thing in the morning, and sometimes if I'm usually not feeling good, but really bad day, I'll have a second one. I also am using something that my physical therapist recommended to me years ago when I was recovering from 3 spinal surgeries, and it's called Utah Sea Minerals. And why I got this also is because it doesn't have stevia in it. A lot of the electrolyte brands have stevia in it instead of sugar, and that can also be hard on your liver and kidneys. This is why I always talk to a doctor. There are other brands out there. I know people use Pedialyte. I think they have a lot of sugar, but there might be a 0 Pedialyte. I'm not sure. And there is Noom is another one that I've heard people using.
I think you can hear me better now. So what I want to talk about next about building the foundation is breathing. I have a whole bunch of video series and different techniques that progress on one another to help you with breathing. But what I don't really talk about it much is how to kind of the different environments and how that affects breathing. So in other words, it's a lot easier to breathe indoors because it's a controlled environment than outdoors. You have temperature, you have atmospheric pressure, and when you're walking outside, it's also usually not as level of a surface as inside. Also, it can feel, at least for me, it's a lot easier breathing without a mask than with a mask. So right now, after 4.5 months, I'm finally able to start breathing indoors, but I can't wear a mask inside yet, and I'm working on that. Outside, it's a whole nother story. I get very short of breath, and my heart rate skyrockets. So the other thing about breathing and walking is that it's very easy to get out of breath when we walk. It's very easy to get out of breath when we talk and when we make fast movements. I've noticed for myself there's a tendency, especially when trying to wear a mask even, to breathe in and out of my mouth when I'm walking, when I'm wearing a mask, and when we talk, that's what we do. And unfortunately, that can tend to spiral us into hyperventilation. Breathing in through the nose is what helps humidify and warm the air going into our lungs, helping to soothe our lungs, as well as it filters the air. For a lot of us, it's easier to breathe out of our mouth through pursed lips, which I do in a lot of the exercises, but it also could be helpful to try breathing out of the nose as well. And so it's very hard coordinating breathing with walking and talking, because we all of a sudden tend to rely on breathing in and out of our mouth, and that can really aggravate our lungs. Even exhaling out of our mouth too quickly can aggravate our lungs. So that's another thing to think about. Try practicing breathing indoors, gradually walking indoors as well while you're breathing. You can have a coordinated breath of 4 breaths in, 4 breaths out, 4 breaths in, 4 breaths out.
Next, anti-inflammatory diet and gut health. I do have a blog post about gut health and how it also relates to emotions such as anxiety and depression on my website. So I definitely encourage you to check it out if you're interested at holistichealingwithdeborah.com. So when it comes to anti-inflammatory, COVID really is an inflammatory disease. It creates a lot of inflammation. Even after COVID's in our system, it's basically wreaked havoc in our system, and inflammation can still be going on. So it's so important to have an anti-inflammatory diet. Anti-inflammatory diet can include this includes good fats and oils such as sesame oil, avocado oil, coconut oil can help, olive oil, and you want to really lubricate the body well. Cod liver oil. You can take anything that has omega-3.
And the next thing, coffee. Oh, okay, I'm not saying you have to give it up. I'm saying it really depends on you as a person. For a lot of people, coffee is a stimulant and it creates a stress response. And it can also raise our heart rate, cause heart palpitations. It can dehydrate us. It's not always good things to it, for me at least. So I'm trying to give up coffee. I have about a half a cup once in a while. It's hard when you have chronic fatigue and you're so tired. But it's something to really be cognizant of. How does coffee or caffeine affect you? It's counterintuitive for me to drink it when I already have a heart rate that's so high that I can't stabilize, and it's just going to skyrocket my heart more, cause more dizziness, more shortness of breath. And then what happens is I'm already exhausted, but then I crash later when the coffee wears off. So it's really what works for you. If you do have coffee, I recommend having it as early in the morning as possible. But then again, my mom, she has coffee at night before bed, and she says it helps her sleep. So it's just something to think about. The next thing that I want to talk about is anti-inflammatory lifestyle. And I say lifestyle because chronic trauma and stress can cause inflammation. And COVID is already an inflammatory disease, and it leaves lingering inflammation, it appears. So a lifestyle involves not just eating right, eating an anti-inflammatory diet. It's really about doing everything you can do to help calm that nervous system down, so that also decreases inflammation. But exercising can help, and pacing yourself as best as you can, meditating or relaxing help create that relaxation response, which can decrease inflammation, and doing something that brings you joy. And I'm going to be talking about that more, but bringing joy changes our mindset. It lifts our mood. It can lift our spirit. Forget about all our fears and anxiety and how we're feeling, and that also can have an anti-inflammatory effect on us. The next thing is about moving. Our bodies are designed to move. We need to move. We need to move in bed. We need to move up, whether it's on the ground, whether it's walking in place, walking around the home. Movement is important to increase circulation, to help decrease anxiety and discharge some of that stress, and to prevent further deconditioning. I'm going to be working on some exercises and walking in future videos. But it's important to talk to your doctor about this. Ask for a physical therapist or an exercise physiologist. Say, I'd like to try to create an exercise plan that's within my heart rate goals and within my oxygen goals. What I do is I have a Fitbit. I know a lot of people will have Fitbits or Apple Watches to watch their heart rate because that's important. And oximeters. I also use an oximeter to really watch my oxygen, which is now much better, but also to watch my heart rate. And if I'm walking, I will wear it around in the house because I don't want to get too high in my heart rate. I'm really trying to train my heart and my body that it can stay calm, that it doesn't have to skyrocket. And it's a lot of slow walking, pacing myself, everything. Slow motion. And it's not overextending myself. I started walking for 2 minutes twice a day. Now I'm up to 5 minutes 4 times a day. And my heart rate's actually gotten a lot better, and breathing has actually helped a lot. So if my heart rate jumps 20 beats from my resting heart rate, which it often does, I kind of need to slow down and pace myself a little better if that's possible. Sometimes I just can't. Sometimes it's so out of hand, I just need to lie down. And I'm giving myself permission to take that break. It's all about pacing too. 60 to 90 for heartbeat tends to be normal resting heart rate. So post-COVID symptoms don't always fall under typical rules. That's why it's so important to try to see if you can work with somebody that can really guide you on how do you get movement going while also maintaining a safe heart rate. If you ever have pain, shortness of breath, you don't want to be pushing yourself, and you want to let your doctor know about this. Oxygen levels should also be between 95% and higher. And there are protocols that you can work on with other people, with the medical profession, to help get you going and pacing at appropriate level for you. Pacing. So we're going to have a separate video about pacing where I'm going to go a little more in depth about it. But what it really comes down to is, are you being willful or will lean? And a lot of times people say, oh, you can push yourself, be strong, you can do this, you can get through this, which is great because you know what? We can. But it's back to pacing again. We don't want to push ourselves too much, right? Or too hard. We want to be, the question is, are we going to push ourselves too hard, or are we going to be will lean to give our body time and space to rest and heal as well? And it's so important because post-COVID does not offer exceptions, it seems like. You know, some illnesses you can try to push yourself, and little steps of pushing yourself you can get farther, but what I've realized for myself at least, and it seems like a lot of other people, if you push yourself even a little, you're going to fall back. And this happened to me when I was walking 5 minutes. I'm like, oh, I feel good. My heart rate's actually stabilizing if I walk really slowly around the house. I'm like, I'm going to try for 2 minutes more. I pushed myself to 7 minutes. My body literally crashed, and I was in bed sleeping for two hours. And I don't think I was sleeping just because I was fatigued. My body crashed. So what happens when we push ourselves, our nervous system may already be hyperaroused, right? Especially with that high heart rate. So we push, higher hyperarousal, overactivity. Eventually our body is like, it's got to shut down. It's like, nope, I can't do this anymore. And it crashes and shuts down. And I think that's exactly what happened to me. And we don't want that because it's hard to recover from. Before, when I had to pace, I had to take a break. Every time I did something, I had to go back and sit down or lie down. I still can't sit up throughout the whole day yet. I tried once, but then I was exhausted and in bed the next day. So yeah, we can try things. A lot of this is trial and error, but are we okay with that? When we push ourselves, we have to make sure that we have time to rest and recover after that in case we really do need that time. So it's not great pushing ourselves on a day that we might be going to work or we have something that day or the next day. We've got to make sure we have some time to rest in case we do crash. And, you know, if we think about it, it's disrespectful to our body that's trying so hard to heal for us. We have to have this agreement, this working relationship with our body. Another thing about pacing is we need these breaks. So what I found is I have a trick to try to motivate myself to take a break. And so if I do something where I know I'm going to have to take a break, I'm like, all right, I'm going to watch this half-hour TV show that I love, that's funny, that makes me feel good. And that's my motivation, or an hour TV show, or if I have a good book. So find something that you can look forward to, that encourages you to take that break. And this leads me to joy. Joy, actually, I should have put it on number 1 on this list of foundation because it's so important. It's so important to find joy every day. It helps energize us. It helps increase our resilience. It reduces inflammation. It reduces anxiety because it creates that relaxation response in us. It gives us hope. It calms our nervous system. It can calm our heart rate and blood pressure. So there's so many ways to get joy. When I was bedridden for 2 years, a long time ago, from chronic pain, I would actually watch I Love Lucy every day for a half hour to an hour, and I so looked forward to that. And when I was watching it, I just forgot about everything. I was just immersed in laughing at the silliness of I Love Lucy. Another thing that you can do that can bring joy is just do something silly. Mad Libs. I do that with my daughter. Another thing is, a patient told me this a long time ago, and now it's a trend, but adult coloring books. It's going to be really, really soothing. And when you feel a sense of soothing and calmness and peace, that is also related to joy. It's also mandala coloring books. Another thing that you can do is gratitude. Gratitude is another way to feel joy. There's a lot of gratitude apps. There you can have a gratitude jar at your house. We have a gratitude jar and a positive affirmation jar. We also have, say, what we're thankful for at the end of the night, my daughter and I. And it makes us feel good. Another thing is humor, right? We're talking about I Love Lucy and joy and gratitude. What I have? I got my daughter this calendar of jokes. So every morning, this is how we begin. What a great way to begin with jokes. Even silly kid jokes. It's fun. It's another idea that gives me is finding memes to send to a friend, or maybe you and a friend send memes back and forth to each other, and that's your thing to do. Okay, so since we're talking about jokes, here's some good jokes I'm going to give you for a break. Why do bees have sticky hair? Because they use honeycombs. Why did the nurse need a red pen at work? In case she needed to draw blood. Why did the M&M go to school? It wanted to be a Smartie. That's cute. My daughter and I, we started a healing dance with her to an uplifting song every day. I started 15 seconds doing my healing dance to 30 seconds. But you know what? It was fun. And the songs were uplifting and it made me feel good. I can't play soccer with her right now, so I can't take her to the park because it's too cold for me to go outside, and I can't really walk to the park yet. So I've come up with other things to do with her. We watch drawing videos together, and we draw together. Sometimes we'll watch funny pet videos or the Holderness family videos on YouTube, which are really funny. And another thing that I've gotten into so I can lie down during my breaks when I lie down is I play video games with her, the games with her, the Roblox. And I've actually gotten really into designing my house, interior decorating my house. So now I'm getting hooked. I'm not the best role model. But you know what? When I am designing my house, I'm immersed in it and I'm having fun and I'm forgetting about everything else. And it's huge. And you notice I'm talking about my daughter a lot. And the social connection is so important. There was a time that I could not speak at all without being extremely short of breath, so I would text with my friends and family to keep that social support, as well as sending memes back and forth. We thrive. Our physiology, biology, neuroimmunology thrives on social connection. It actually affects our nervous system for the better. When our system is hyper-aroused from trauma, chronic stress, chronic illness, we can be in this fight or flight phase and stuck in it even. And social connection can help create a calming response because it stimulates the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is that 10th cranial nerve that goes from the brainstem down to wandering. A branch wanders to all these different organs that it innervates. And when it's stimulated, it activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and repair, the rest and digest system. So social connection is one hugely important thing that stimulates the relaxation response. Other ways you can stimulate the vagus nerve is singing. And that, if that's too difficult because of shortness of breath, humming and slow breathing, slow elongated breathing, which we'll talk about in the future. So sing with someone, sing to a fun song, hum to a tune, watch a movie with someone, give a hug and get a hug from a family member. And if you can't walk, sit outside if it's nice out. And if it's not nice out, call someone up or text with somebody or FaceTime someone, Zoom with somebody. Connect through others through support groups. I'm going to have a list of support groups at the end of this video, and I also have it on my website, a whole bunch of different resources. It's a great way to connect with others so you feel like, oh, they get what I'm going through. Because it's really hard when people don't understand, especially the extreme fatigue that you can feel. People do not understand. They think, oh, it's like a bad day where I didn't get a good night's sleep. Well, it's a lot worse than that. And not being able to breathe is incredibly frustrating and scary. People don't always understand all these different symptoms. Okay, so I want to end with a whole bunch of different resources for you. Facebook, there are a lot of Facebook support groups full of wonderful, kind, supportive members. I don't think I've ever seen any group that was so supportive as these support groups for people who have COVID. There's COVID-19 support and recovery, long COVID support group, COVID long haulers. They're also from most states. If you have dysautonomia, there's Dysautonomia International, and they also have a support group for each state on Facebook, as well as a list of doctors. And I gotta tell you, these are wonderful resources where I found some great doctors and some great recommendations, including electrolytes, which has been such a godsend for me for helping with my energy and helping get rid of my headaches. There's also a wonderful website. It's free pulmonary. It's a pulmonary wellness foundation, and they offer a free pulmonary wellness program with COVID boot camp and webinars for people with COVID and long haulers. There's also Spring Forest Qigong on Facebook. There's a lot of people that I know in support groups that have actually been doing this. And I love Qigong. I find it a great way to really help energize my body, but also feel grounded and centered and work on all those meridians, including the heart meridians, the lung meridians, getting the energy circulating throughout our bodies. They offer a free half-hour Qigong live on Facebook, and they also offer programs on their website, springforestqigong.com, with Master Chun Yi Lin. There's also free Tong Ren healings if you search Facebook. This is a way of also working with meridians. My friend did a session for me and recorded it for me, and it actually helped me sleep and breathe a little better, and I would listen to it every night. When I first had COVID pneumonia and was trying to recover from that, it was the only thing that got me to fall asleep. Since I'm a big proponent of meditation, there's several apps that I will especially like for anxiety, for pain management, for insomnia, or Insight Timer, Calm, My Life. And if you Google yoga, there's a lot of yoga videos that can be done on the floor or in the chair. That is a great way to get moving again. That won't necessarily be increasing your heart rate compared to some other exercises. A lot of people, including myself, love Yoga by Adriene. And I really encourage you to try the Facebook support groups. If you're not already on one, just amazing people. You feel free to ask any questions to them, and so many people respond with helpful information. And sometimes people just say they need a prayer, and you get flooded with prayers, and it feels good to have that support. So I hope that helps. Any questions, anything you want to share with me, definitely send me an email, keep in touch. And I know this is a big talk. There's a lot of information. A lot of this will be broken down in videos, but I want to help just start off with building that foundation for you. And with some jokes. Let's see how corny these are. You ready? Do you want to hear a construction joke? Sorry, I'm still working on it. Why should you never trust stairs? They're always up to something. My teachers told me I'd never amount to much since I procrastinate so much. I told them, just you wait. All right, I'm going to end with an inappropriate one. What's the difference between an oral thermometer and a rectal thermometer? The taste, mostly. Oh, gosh. All right, you guys. I hope one of those gave you a laugh.